On February 15th and 16th, communities throughout eastern Kentucky were devastated by both flash flooding and river flooding that reached levels not seen in more than 30 years. More than 20 lives were lost across the state, with 4 of those being right here in Pike County. For nearly 4 weeks, help has poured in from individuals and groups from hundreds of miles away. Images of historic flooding swept across the country thanks to the expansive reach of social media. And as a response, dozens of teams and hundreds of volunteers were mobilized, headed straight for eastern Kentucky. I'm Shannon Deskins with Pikeville Medical Center, and I sincerely want to thank you for joining us this evening. For the next hour, we will hear from several people, from our first responders who conducted hundreds of water rescues in the middle of the night, to elected officials who are committed to finding and organizing resources, to flood survivors, many of whom lost their homes and all of their possessions. Our first story this evening is an inspiring one, and one I know is represented in every community that was flooded. A story about a flood survivor who is taking care of others even though she has experienced tremendous loss. I'd like to introduce you to Jamie Jude. One of the hardest hit areas along the Lavisa Fork of the Big Sandy River in Pike County was the Mossy Bottom community in Coal Run. Nearly every resident there is facing a complete loss of everything they owned. One of those is Jamie Jude.
Basically, it's lost. It's gone. They're going to have to remove it, and this was home for 12 years. For all of us here at Mossy Bottom, it's been traumatizing. Some of us can't sleep, some of us are depressed, some of us can't come back, and that's more heartbreaking than anything.
Jamie and her neighbors knew they were going to have to leave their homes when the water began entering their neighborhood. At that moment, the river level was rising 3 feet per hour. When they were able to return home 2 days later, they knew they had lost everything.
This water was so powerful that it just washed this building all the way down from the end of the trailer up here behind my home. When I opened the door, the kitchen, everything was everywhere. The refrigerator was dropped on the floor. There was food everywhere. There was debris, and my washer was upside down pointing toward my roof. So it was just, when you walk in, you see so much of your life just gone.
The one thing Jamie was worried most about losing was the only thing she was able to save.
I lost my dad, and I had a locket that had his ashes in it, and I had left it. I just got scared, and we got out, and I thought we had lost it. Well, when the gentleman from the church and everything come in, they found it bone dry. I have a shelf that was in my bedroom, and that's where it was. But everything else was moved all around in the floor. The locket was there. So that was the only thing that was saved.
Despite her own personal losses, Jamie has remained focused on the needs of everyone else around her.
I myself, I may not have a home right now, but just to make sure that everybody's got everything they needed, whether it's food, whether it's clothes, supplies. We're also giving resources of where to go. I want to let them know that I'm working as much as I can to make sure that they can try to come back home. We're all connected, and this is what Coal Run is. We may have lost everything, but we didn't lose each other. This is a family. This is home. This is community. And like I told my husband, I wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
And that's pretty evident if you just stand back and watch her from a distance.
We ready to rock and roll? We've got food trucks coming in actually here pretty soon. We are working on right now getting laundry to be able to come out to where we can have a laundry truck to be able to come out and let others come and do their laundry. We also have some big truck of supplies coming in. And then we got Joel and them, so we're gonna load down. Thank you. Who's here now is supplied until everybody gets here.
You're doing okay.
The building it was washed all the way from off the foundation, from all the way down to the end of the trailer. Just make sure to keep your coat on, Sadie. Hey, I got you some buckets. The way I see it is faith, hope, and just community. We can help one another build back and be here again, be home. This is my home.
The water that flooded our communities may have receded, but the desperate need of our friends and neighbors is still rising. The initial wave of disaster response teams who traveled from across the country is gone, and so is the national spotlight. Now it is time for Eastern Kentuckians to do what we do best: take care of our own. Pikeville Medical Center and the PMC Foundation are committed to doing just that. 100% of money raised through our combined efforts will go directly to flood survivors. You can make your donation now by going to pikevillehospital.org/flood. We are Appalachia, unsinkable.
And I'm joined now by Jill Dotson, Executive Director of Community Relations for the City of Pikeville. And Jill, you and I go way back. We've been friends for a long time in our previous roles in, I guess you could say, in the news industry.
In the news business, yeah.
And that night, Saturday night, when all this was happening, you and I were both out in different areas.
Different capacities for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yours, there's two sides to yours, but the first one is personal.
Yeah.
The first one involved you having to help get someone who's in your best friend's house, who's house sitting out. Talk to me about that.
So my best friend, she was out of town, and her dog sitter was there taking care of her animal. And so I got a phone call that that area was getting a lot of water and taking on more water than what we expected at the time, and that I needed to go get her and the dog. So I immediately got in the car. My husband and I drove over, and I knew from the radio chatter how bad it was getting. So I knew that we had to get there because the water was getting very close to the bridge where you cross over from 23. So when I got there, turned onto Thompson Road, and of course I saw all of our crews there, and they had just brought Sophia and the dog across by boat. We got them in the car, and then as I turned around, it began to get progressively worse. And they were rescuing the entire community. There's 22 houses there, so a lot of people were home and had not left yet, so they were rescuing them by boat from that entire community.
And I know that's something you never expected to see.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I had no idea when they kept telling me the water was getting higher and higher, and to make sure I got across the bridge at a certain time, and then in the same token get back across the bridge to 23 because they were going to close the bridge. It's not what you expect to see when you pull on Thompson Road behind Walmart to see water there, but that's in fact what was happening.
Now that was in the personal capacity that you had as friend Jill. Now work Jill also within that same time frame, you got called in to work.
Yeah, I did. Well, I started working immediately there. After we got them located to the car, I had our firemen, our EMS workers, I had some police officers there, so I immediately transitioned my focus to them and what was going on. So when I knew they were taken care of, then I was on my way home, and then when I got there, within just a few minutes, I got the call that I needed to go open up one of our community centers because we were having to evacuate the Holiday Inn Express,
on
which
the other end of town.
On the other end of town, which sits on the riverbank, because the water was getting dangerously close to their parking lot. So I went to open our community center at Bob Amos Park, and within just seconds of me pulling in the parking lot, we started receiving people that were staying at the Holiday Inn. And so by the end of the evening, we had about 15 people there that had been evacuated. So it was really not something I expected to do that day. It just all happened very quickly.
Not expecting is what you say, and I think that our entire region was not expecting.
Right.
I think even to a point, the National Weather Service was caught a little bit off guard with how quickly the water was rising.
Yeah, it was rising, I think, 3 feet per hour, which was just incredible amounts of water, and so quickly. It was really just something to see.
Now, I was on the other end of things that night, on the other side of the river in the Cassidy Boulevard area. And I was at one point behind McDonald's and Applebee's in there, and I did a 15-minute time lapse, and it was incredible how fast it came up that quickly. And I was joined to my left by some members of the Pikeville Fire Department.
Yeah.
And they were letting me know that they were getting ready to close the floodgates there at the Bowles
Right.
Addition. And that is one of those markers that you know they're not going to do that unless there's a serious
Yeah.
threat or we're getting to that point. So I was able to, and he said, why don't you come over and watch and get some footage, which I did. It's emotional almost when you're standing there and you're watching them put the floodgate up piece by piece.
If you ever watch them do that when they train to do it every year, but when you're there and you know that it really is, it's the real thing, and they're under a time constraint and they work so well together, it is an incredible thing to see.
Well, I was able to save a few minutes of that footage and capture that, and let's take a look at that now. You know, the word that we use is surreal, and I don't know any other word that fits that.
And I've said that every time that I talk about it from that night on, when I explain to people how real it becomes. We talked earlier about me going there to rescue my friend's house sitter and her dog, and then turning and seeing my friends, my coworkers and my colleagues, and really my work family putting their lives on the line to rescue other people who are scared beyond belief because they're being rescued from their homes by boat, something they never ever expected to happen. So when I got there and I was seeing them in the water, I saw Tyson Lockridge, who is a former firefighter, but now a police officer with the city of Pikeville, who was off that day, who knew there was a need and threw on a wetsuit because he has swiftwater experience. And then I saw Matt Stevens physically swimming across from Thompson Road to the house that they were getting to by boat. And then all of our other firemen and emergency workers who were on a lifeboat, basically, who were bringing people across, and it was just like clockwork. It's what they had trained to do. It's what they knew exactly what they were doing. But when you see your work family and your coworkers that you see every day in their element, in their capacity of saving lives while risking theirs, it puts a whole new meaning behind what they do for our community.
And this is an area that, you know, anybody who's watching is probably driven to the Walmart in Pikeville. This is that area.
Absolutely.
And then you're saying this, and I'm thinking they're swimming through that area that we drive through, some of us daily.
Yes, every day. They were swimming through it, but I think what struck me the most is that we had all components covered. So you have your EMS, you have your fire, you have your police, and you have, you know, all of them working together as one unit, and they were incredible. But to know that our police chief and our 911 dispatch manager, and then our fire chief were all there. And I turned around at one point and I saw Johnny Cole, who was our fire chief, walking down the sidewalk in a wetsuit. And at that point I knew he had been in the water. And it just takes things to a whole different perspective of how appreciative that we all should be of our first responders, because we don't know what they do until you see them do it. And they do so many things that we're never privileged to see. But on this night, it really put it in a whole new perspective for me.
And I had a few minutes earlier this week to sit down with those guys and talk to them, and let's hear a little bit about that now. The flood of 2025 will be remembered vividly by many for the rest of their lives. Some will remember the flood as a bystander who wasn't personally affected, while others will remember losing everything. Our first responders will also remember how their job duties changed as that water was rising.
Yeah, never working at the Pikeville Police Department did I think there would be a time that we'd have to go to different neighborhoods and people that we know personally be like, hey, you're going to have to leave because the water's coming and potentially going to get in your home.
Pikeville Police Chief Mike Riddle said his department mainly supported the Pikeville Fire Department.
It was a lot of just following the fire department around, just knowing that there was things that they needed extra hands with. When the decision was made that the floodgates got to go up, they always invite us to that training with them, so that way when it's the real deal we can go and try to help them.
Pikeville Fire Chief Johnny Cole said almost immediately after the floodgate had been erected, calls for water rescues began coming in. The first calls came from the Lakeview community near Walmart.
When we first arrived on scene, we was dealing with a gas leak in that area. We went from handling that call to realizing the water was coming up quick on Lakeview. So we deployed our boat to our location and we put the boat in right away. Myself, Matt Stevens, and a couple more went by foot to make sure that we went to every house to make sure that everybody was evacuated, and they had the option to leave if they chose to, and everybody did. So we rescued probably 30 members of that community, not counting probably 10 to 15 animals as well, and making sure that their kids and loved ones are taken out of there safely.
The 911 calls and radio traffic went non-stop throughout the night.
Got a vehicle in the water, male subject trapped inside of it.
But we can have more than a mile walk to the residence that's surrounded by water.
2 subjects trapped at home. Also, they received a call of two separate vehicles stuck at the mouth of Penny Road.
We're going to be redirected from the operation at Swan Fork Emergency. We'll be en route to Elkhorn. We have notified the county EM also. So all city employees out at the floodgate buttons up at this time.
I have a vehicle that's submerged in water at John Creek Fire Station.
Give it a hit up there. Also show co-run units responding as well.
PD advised the car come across Cassidy Bridge and went out in the middle of the water, and now they're trapped inside the vehicle.
10-4, we got several families that is being escorted out by boat right now.
Yeah, there's flooding in almost every place in Pikeville City, and there's power lines, I know for a fact, at multiple yards in Harold's Branch.
I think we've made contact with everybody we can in Poly Edition. We're going to head to Kill Edition now. We're in the Buckley Street, completely underwater on 23, and we got 2 lanes at the foot deep on 23 here southbound.
We were gauged in both editions at 42.5 feet. 42.5 feet.
200 all boat crews report back to Station 1. We're going to have flooding in our area.
Flood wall down here behind the trailer park at the plaza has collapsed, by the way.
Let them know to get everybody out if they can, but we need you all to get across the bridge. If not, you're going to be stuck over there.
08, current river level 4596. 4596.
They have closed the Cassidy Boulevard Bridge. The water is over the bridge there.
We're going to have to evacuate it on foot. Other units bringing the ladder. I need you to step it up.
10-4, we got 2 units and at least 6 personnel coming to you, sir.
Shelby in the road, 15 people rescued, along with 2 animals.
We're on Thompson Road, and the car's filling up. I can't get out of the car. Get out.
Ma'am, I've got fire units in the area.
Possibly another strand of rain coming in at 5. If you guys want to grab a bite or just rest for a moment, just in case we're in for the long call tonight.
As we were planning this program, our team wanted to make sure it was titled appropriately, and we unanimously agreed on the name Appalachia Unsinkable. This represents the loyalty, grit, and determination of our region to face obstacles no matter how impossible they may seem, and then overcome them, emerging stronger on the other side. We all have friends, neighbors, co-workers, and family who are hurting right now, many losing everything they own in the flood. Tonight we are giving you the opportunity to contribute financially to help survivors begin to rebuild. All donations will go to the Pikeville Medical Center Foundation, who will then see that the money is distributed to those in need. To explain more is Carly Lambert.
The Pikeville Medical Center Foundation for Quality Healthcare is more than an organization. It's a movement, a commitment to providing world-class healthcare right here in Central Appalachia. From life-saving heart procedures to cutting-edge cancer treatments to specialized care for children and newborns, we are here for our community. At Pikeville Medical Center, every heartbeat matters. Every child's laughter, every cancer survivor's victory, every life saved. It all begins with compassionate care made possible by people like you. But our commitment to this region extends beyond hospital walls. And when disaster strikes, we step up. In the wake of devastating floods that uprooted lives across our region, the PMC Foundation mobilized to provide critical relief and direct assistance to families in need. Because healthcare is more than just medicine. It's about compassion, resilience, and standing together in times of crisis. Through our flood relief efforts, we have united with our community to raise crucial funds for families affected by this disaster. The generosity we witnessed during our live fundraising and resources event was overwhelming. And the support didn't stop there. Online donations continue to pour in, helping us provide assistance where it's needed most. Our website also serves as a hub of information, connecting families with essential resources. We're joining forces with our vendors and local organizations to deliver critical supplies to those impacted. Thanks to this generosity, we are making a difference. But there is still work to be done. Every donation, every volunteer, and every partnership helps us bring hope and healing to our community. The PMC Foundation is dedicated to ensuring that quality healthcare and emergency relief are always within reach. Through donations, grants, and partnerships, we support vital programs and services, so no patient and no family ever has to face hardship alone. The PMC Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit, so all donations are tax deductible. And our foundation has no overhead, so 100% of donated funds go directly to our community. Every dollar raised stays in our region, strengthening our Heart and Vascular Institute, expanding cancer care, advancing pediatric services, and now providing emergency assistance to those in need. We invite you to be part of this mission, to give hope, to heal hearts, to rebuild lives. Visit pikevillehospital.org and join us in making a difference, one life at a time.
Hey everybody, it's Andy. We're going through yet another tough time here in the Commonwealth. In February, we faced another severe weather event with flooding taking the lives of 24 of our fellow Kentuckians, each a child of God who will be missed by their friends and family. Thanks to donations to our Team Kentucky Storm Relief Fund, we're going to be able to pay for each funeral for these families. It's just the least that we can do. So as we recover once again, I know it's easy to feel frustrated and ask why, but we always see God in our response. We see the Team Kentucky spirit of kindness and neighbors helping neighbors. Our first responders, National Guard, Kentucky State Police, Fish and Wildlife teams, and so many others help rescue more than 1,300 Kentuckians. Federal, state, and local employees work together to respond and to be there for communities in need. Our road crews work through long nights, clearing our roads and landslides. Our state parks open their doors to Kentuckians who had lost so much. Medical personnel, like those at the Pikeville Medical Center, made sure that everyone received the medical treatment they needed. To all these folks and to so many more, we cannot thank you enough. To those who are still in need, please visit our Flooding Resources website. There you will find important information to help you recover. I promise, Team Kentucky will be there with you every step of the way until every home and every life is rebuilt. And remember, just like always, we'll get through this and we'll get through it together.
Nearly 3 years ago, our region experienced horrific flash flooding that claimed dozens of lives and destroyed hundreds of homes throughout our region. Andy Morrell is a PMC employee who nearly lost everything in '22 and found himself on the receiving end of kindness, which is what we often see in eastern Kentucky. When the 2025 flood happened just a few weeks ago, Andy was among the first in line to return the favor.
The February 2025 flood brought back painful memories for Andy Morrell, who knows firsthand how destructive floodwaters can be.
In 2022, we were flooded and we nearly lost everything. My family felt helpless.
But as we often do in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, friends, family, and his co-workers from Pikeville Medical Center showed up to help. 2.5 years later, in February of 2025, Andy is talking with his co-workers about another flood. But this time, things are different.
Now I'm fortunate to be able to return the blessings.
And as you are deciding what amount you feel led to give today to help flood survivors, remember these words.
We help each other because that's just what we do.
When word of the 2025 flood began to spread on the morning of February 16th, not just Kentucky, but our entire country was seeing images coming out of Pikeville and surrounding communities. Disaster teams began mobilizing and making plans to bring help to our region. One immediate need was food, more specifically, hot meals. One of the first groups to arrive and begin cooking was Mercy Chefs.
Yeah, so Mercy Chefs, we are a disaster relief nonprofit. We've been around since, when Hurricane Katrina happened. After that, we started our response in 2006, and we've been around ever since. We have done over 30 million meals, and in that, we don't just want to create meals just to have them, right? We want to create a fresh, hot, restaurant quality style meal in these times of disaster. When the disaster first happened, these flood survivors were able to come in and gain a lot of resources. They acted as a distribution point. And when they were doing that, they could also get a hot, fresh meal alongside that. We are feeding thousands of people all over the Pikeville, Kentucky area and also elsewhere as well. And what we're doing is we are creating these hot, fresh, restaurant quality style meals, and we're going out, we're giving them to different community members in two different ways. Some are plated meals and others what we call bulk meals. So that's when they go in the pans and they actually serve them at their locations. This way we can feed a lot of people all over this area. With that, we're with incredible individuals from the area who are out here volunteering with us. They've been out here every day since we've been, and it's been an amazing response. We have a few locations. We have a lot of the fire departments and many local churches who have partnered up and who are taking a lot of those meals to their spots where people can still receive those resources there.
What we do is try to cook to the palate of the place where we're serving. So wherever we deploy, we want to give comfort food to those folks. So here, bourbon, barbecue, makes perfect sense. So I actually got to talk to the owners of the Brothers Wright distillery, and they gave me some of their coal mine aged bourbon, and I told them that I would make a Kentucky barbecue sauce.
So as of February 28th, we have served over 25,000 meals, which is wild thinking that we just got here February 19th. We learned that Pikeville was a community of 7,000 individuals. So to know that we are reaching so many and even people around the area as well is just so cool to know.
If you've just gone through a disaster and your home is destroyed or you've lost family or friends, the last thing you want in food is something you're not used to. You need a level or want a level of comfort.
I think we cry every day. So there's different types of deployments that you can do, right? There's physical ones or, very taxing emotional ones. And I'd say this is more maybe the emotional side where you just see such incredible individuals and they see what we're doing. They understand as much as you can understand how you can create 5,000 meals in a couple hours, you know, it's crazy to think about, but they're seeing that produced for their people. It just brings tears to your eyes.
I get to go to people in their time of greatest need, and I get to love on them. I get to bring the love of God and the comfort of chef-prepared food to them. And so that's what got me into it.
We do respond to many different areas of Kentucky, so we'd always love people to volunteer with us.
Watching a community in their own pain, in their own loss, in their own economic struggle, in their own whatever, helping their community feeds me more than anything that I can feed to you.
When disaster strikes, our community comes together. In the wake of the devastating floods, the PMC Foundation has been working tirelessly to provide relief to those in need. Through our flood relief efforts, we have rallied support from generous donors and volunteers, raising funds and providing resources to help families recover and rebuild. The road to recovery is far from over. Fortunately, the foundation is still taking online donations, and our website offers essential resources to connect those in need with help. We continue to provide essential aid to our neighbors in need. We are dedicated to working with individual donors, corporations, community organizations, and government leaders who share our dedication to improving the health of the region we serve. Every donation and every act of support brings us one step closer to rebuilding lives. Your kindness is making a real impact. The PMC Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit, so all donations are tax deductible, and our foundation has no overhead, so 100% of donated funds go directly to our community. Join us in this movement. Visit our website, pikevillehospital.org, to donate or learn how you can help. Together, we can bring hope to our community. Together, we rebuild.
One of the most remarkable things, Shannon, I think that we've been able to see during this time are the hundreds of volunteers and different groups that have come into Eastern Kentucky to help for no other reason just than to help. One of those groups that I have grown to really have just the utmost respect for and love for is Samaritan's Purse.
And I know you personally have been working with them. When we did our telethon last week, you were able to bring a guest on and talk about that. And I guess now you've been working another week or so with them, so where are we now?
So they are just a tremendous organization that were in town on Monday night, just as the floodwaters were beginning to recede. Then they were boots on the ground the next morning or next afternoon. And since that time, you know, they set up their entire facility remotely right off of Hanley Boulevard at the First Baptist Church parking lot. And since that time, they have done at least 100 work orders that we know. At this point, there's another 100 left for them to serve. And what they do is they go into your home and they all tear out the sheetrock and they tear up the flooring and take it down to the studs, and then they'll spray it with anti-mold solution to get it contractor ready. So when you are in the position to start to rebuild your home back, if you're able to, then you're ready to go. And they will be here until the last work order is filled. If that takes 3 months, if it takes 4 months, or if it just takes another month, they'll be here. The volunteers they have come in from all over the country. It is incredible the workforce that they have of people that just want to come and serve others and help. And it's just been remarkable, and certainly my pleasure to get to know them and what their organization stands for.
And one thing about Samaritan's Purse I learned that night is they have trucks pre-packed and ready to go in North Carolina, where their home base is.
Yeah, they do. They're located in Boone, North Carolina, so at their facility there, the trucks are ready to go. So they can be deployed once disaster hits within just a few hours. Once they get their staff in place and like their immediate people, then they go. So really, the night that I met with them was 6:30 on Monday evening, and at 8:30 the next morning, met with them again, and at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the first trucks pulled in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and you expect the groups to come into town on the disaster relief side of it, but sometimes help comes from unexpected ways. Sometimes help comes from a 3-year-old social media influencer. That's how a very successful toy drive found its way to the Pike County Sheriff's Office.
The back of a police cruiser is the last place you'd expect to see teddy bears, but these days we're seeing more teddy bears than people in the back of a Pike County Sheriff's Department cruiser.
Since last week, we have probably received between 1,500 and 1,800 new toys, some from our community and some from the Cheyenne and Nora drive that they did for us. And there are some here. We have a box truck full. We've probably already sent out 20, 30 boxes of toys to kids through the family resource centers at the schools. And we have probably about 60 more to do, I think, boxes, and we're just filling them up as much as we can get in there. It's normal right now to see a cruiser full of toys and boxes of toys, and we put the kid's name on it or some identifying information, send it to the school, and then they just get it out to the kiddos that lost their things.
Sarah needed some help with her mission, so she enlisted the help of someone who knows a thing or two about toys. Little 3-year-old Nora Ramsey and her mom, Cheyenne.
I had been following them on TikTok, and I knew that they like to give back, and I knew that they had ties to Eastern Kentucky. So I had made a TikTok about doing a toy drive for the flood victims, and I tagged them in the TikTok, and she immediately messaged me, Cheyenne did. She said, check your messages, and I checked them, and she was like, we got you. We're gonna help you all. And they just took it and ran with it.
Over the weekend, there's a flooding in Eastern Kentucky. My mommy's from Eastern Kentucky. My Nan and Papa live there. So we want to help clean up, and you can help us do that, everybody.
They just started rolling in, the toys did after that.
Tuesday or Wednesday last week, boxes just started coming, and they just kept coming, and they're still coming. And some boxes may have one toy and some may have 6 or 7. That's how it's been.
The first day, I think we had 250 boxes, not toys, boxes of toys. And I was like, gosh, that's a lot. Well, the next day, I think we had like 400 boxes of toys. They just kept coming. It's been amazing. We had a delivery today. We've had people in our community are still stopping by. We had 2 people stop by today with toys to drop off for the kids. I think it's touched a lot of people's heart, thinking about the young people.
You got people donating water and donating cleaning supplies and donating food, and the kids was getting left out, and not long after Christmas, and some of these kids lost everything, and so it was a great idea.
People have sent us pictures of the kids with their toys. I've had people message me and say, my kids have played all night with these toys. It's been heartwarming, and it's been a blessing.
That's Sarah, she's such a good person. She's got a good heart, and she's been with me quite a while. I've known her for, probably 25 years. She's worked with me ever since I became sheriff.
Sarah's desire to give back comes from the loss she faced as a result of the flooding.
My home was flooded in 22, and my home was flooded again this time. It got 7 feet in my downstairs. I needed to see some joy after all that. My neighborhood is destroyed. Like 2, 3 houses I don't know if they can fix them. Like it's destroyed. Places that have never flooded before with children. And I know how I felt about my things that were gone, and my neighbor's kids. One neighbor had 5 children and they lost their toys, and another neighbor had 1. He lost his toys, and he was really worried about his shoes and his games. And when they were telling me this, it just melted my heart. As grown-ups, we have to worry about shelter, food, filling out all the paperwork for the things that have to be done. And that's what good parents do, to provide for their kids, but the kids don't understand, why don't I have my stuffed animal that I had last night, the items that bring them comfort, and I wanted to try and help.
These have been hard times for everyone, including those at the Pike County Sheriff's Office.
I don't care what you do, it still seems like you're helpless at a time like this. And the deputies, you know, they needed something like this. They seen all the bad, you know, and people staying in shelters and didn't have anything, and kids in shelters and didn't have anything. And these kids, you know, they can't help it. They don't know, some of them don't know what's going on other than, hey, you know, my toys are gone, or I can't go home. And so, you know, just to see them, you know, have a good day and smile and go on, you know, means everything.
I did what God put on my heart, and the glory's His.
The water that flooded our communities may have receded, but the desperate need of our friends and neighbors is still rising. The initial wave of disaster response teams who traveled from across the country is gone, and so is the national spotlight. Now it is time for Eastern Kentuckians to do what we do best: take care of our own. Pikeville Medical Center and the PMC Foundation are committed to doing just that. 100% of money raised through our combined efforts will go directly to flood survivors. You can make your donation now by going to pikevillehospital.org/flood. We are Appalachia, unsinkable.
Some of the most extensive flooding happened along the Leviza Fork of the Big Sandy River in Pike County, with the city of Coal Run experiencing tremendous losses to both businesses and residences. We recently spent some time with Coal Run Mayor Andrew Scott, who explained what they were facing and what their plans are for rebuilding.
Here we are almost a month out, and what we're basically trying to focus on right now is basically recovery for the entire city. We had about 112 structures affected by flood in some way, shape, or form. That could be anything from basement flooding to actual total loss. There are homeowners, particularly in Mossy Bottom and other areas of Coal Run, who do not have places to live right now. I spoke to one lady the other night. She's sleeping on a couch in her mother's house with her daughter having to sleep on the floor and her husband having to sleep in the car outside at night because there's not enough room. We've got to get those people help, and that's where my focus is. My focus is going to be on helping people recover from day one until we're back into the point where we need to be.
However, some solutions are easier said than done.
We have been hampered for years in Eastern Kentucky due to environmental regulations on being able to dredge our creeks and streams. Fish Trap Lake will not hold the amount of water right now that it did 30 years ago because the headwaters are pushing in silt into that just as well. So the issue of dredging the actual reservoirs in Buckhorn, which protects hazard, is also in the same situation. I think it's actually 50% capacity of what it was 30 years ago.
And some regulations have even cost the city federal funding.
You know, the city of Coal Run back in 2022 lost about $200,000 or $300,000 in funding because we happened to use concrete riprap to stabilize our roads. They came back and said, no, we're not going to reimburse you for that. You put concrete next to a creek and that's going to endanger the habitat of the big sandy crawdad. And I just about fell out of my chair because what we're talking about is people's lives here. The red tape needs to be cut. We have been working on a flood wall here in Coal Run that's been approved through the Army Corps of Engineers, that's been funded every time they've asked for money through Congressman Hal Rogers, that has been in the works for decades. And they do a study. It takes them 10 years to do that study. By the time they get done with that study, a new study needs to be done, and the red tape has got to be cut. If we're going to protect the lives of our residents, if we're going to protect the structures of our residents and our businesses, we cannot have the endless red tape of the federal government hindering us. And that's not just for Coal Run, that's for all of Eastern Kentucky.
Despite the challenges, the resilience and dedication of the citizens of Coal Run has never wavered.
The devastation that we saw here in the city of Coal Run was quite immense. The '84 flood, I believe, was around 44 feet, and as you know, it ended up cresting a little bit above 46 feet. So we were 2 feet above that, and very sad to look at. I remember coming out here to the city park about 3 a.m. Sunday morning and looking at the park underwater and knowing that there were water rescues going on, and had just been notified by our fire chief that everybody was safe. And I immediately noticed that the lights are still on in the park and they're shining on our huge American flag. The wind is blowing and the flag was flying so beautifully, and at that point I realized that it could have been a lot worse than what it was, and that we here live in the greatest nation in the world. We are some of the best people here in Kentucky. But seeing that flag and knowing that we have so many people that are going to jump in and help us, so many of our neighbors who are flooded themselves are going to jump in and help others, knowing that really helped my mindset. And I've tried my best to convey that to people. I know people are suffering. I know people are going through a lot. We're going to stand together and we're going to do everything we can to help them build back. We here in Coal Run have an enormous attitude of resilience that we're very proud of, and we're looking towards the future. We're looking towards a bright future. We're not focusing on the darkness of the February 15th and 16th floods. They were bad, but the future is going to be better. It's not been easy, it's not going to be easy, but we are going to prevail. And we're going to recover, and we're going to be stronger for it on the other side.
I want to thank Pikeville Medical Center for putting together this telethon to help your neighbors solve the flood-related problems that they're now going through. Pike County got more damage in this last flood than any other county, with more people harmed because of the flood. And I want to thank Pikeville Medical Center for being on top of that problem and helping us help our neighbors who are in need. Thank you and God bless.
One of the businesses in Coal Run that experienced a total loss was a successful custom embroidery shop. One of the co-founders of that business, Eddie Greenhill, is also a longtime firefighter with the Pikeville Fire Department. During the night of February 15th, Eddie was helping rescue residents by boat throughout the city and county. At the same time, the business he and his wife operated was flooding. Here is their story.
When the floodwaters receded on February 16th, Stephanie and Eddie Greenhill got their first look at the shop they started together nearly 10 years ago.
Everything that was here, all the inventory, our machines, which included the four-head embroidery machine, which is a large machine, heat press, hat press, vinyl printer, cutter, all of our computers, cash register, counter space, showroom, everything that was in the showroom was gone. We just never expected the water to get this high.
Eddie was working as a firefighter for the city of Pikeville Saturday night when the water began flooding homes and businesses.
Of course, amongst everything else, we were taking calls and checking on people, rescuing people. We ended up putting up the flood wall somewhere about 11, I think, that night. So as soon as we finished putting up the flood wall, I came down to check, and by that time, like I say, when we got here, it was already 2 feet up on the building, and there wasn't anything I could do.
Eddie said at that point, he focused all his attention on helping others evacuate their homes and keeping people safe.
We had quite a few in Lakeview that we had to rescue out. There were numerous trees down that we had to cut out of the road just to keep the passages that we did have open. And us and the police would go and knock door to door and try to tell people, because a lot of people didn't know it was even coming.
Eddie spent more than 20 years at the Pikeville Fire Department working his way to the rank of captain before he retired, or tried to.
I retired in 2015, and of course, family owned, we started this business then, and worked like crazy, probably the most I've ever worked. And then my oldest son, Ben, starts on the fire department, and that just kind of rekindled some things in me that, and the opportunity came about that I could go back. And I said, I'm just gonna pray about it. I'm gonna leave it to God. If this is where God wants me, then it'll work out.
Stephanie and Eddie said they did not know how big Eddie's decision to go back to the fire department was until after the flood.
Yeah, he started back in June, and we didn't expect this, so that was our income. Now he's back to work. We have that income that we won't have right now. So it's been a blessing for sure.
Stephanie says now they're just taking things day by day.
Basically, what we're trying to figure out is what to do to get back in business, because the machines are destroyed And when you don't have those machines to do anything, there's no reason to move somewhere else and try to start. I have employees that I want to get back in, so I'm trying my best to get them going again.
You think when FEMA shows up and you're just waiting on the arrival of FEMA and all the other organizations that come in to help. They help residents in their homes, which is great, which is absolutely needed. But small family-owned businesses like ours, the only help that we can get is through SBA loans. One of the biggest reasons for starting this business was to provide jobs for the community, and we've done that with two people, and we poured everything that we've had into this, all of our savings, my mom's included. There should be a type of way out there that small family-owned businesses can get like grants and stuff, not to replace everything that we had, but just to get started back so we can start that rebuilding process. We know in the end God's got a plan. Everything happens for a reason, and we'll just keep our faith in Him and keep moving along day by day.
As we near the end of tonight's broadcast, let's take a minute to get an update from the Emergency Operations Center in the Pike County Emergency Management Office. 𝐀𝐏𝐏𝐀𝐋 Jackson has been coordinating disaster relief efforts, which can shift from moment to moment.
It's been a long process. People think it's a sprint, it's a marathon. You're trying to meet people's needs for what has happened to them in the last month, plus trying to prepare for what's going to happen in the future. We're hoping to make sure that everybody that has a need, whether they're rebuilding their home, they have to purchase something new, whatever it may be, that they have the opportunity that we can try to get them in some kind of sheltering for the rebuild, for the new home, whatever their situation might be. There are some people that are housed at the Daniel Boone. We've got folks that are at 𝐔𝐍𝐒𝐈𝐍𝐊. We've got folks that are at the Presbyterian Church on Cedar, that the Red Cross is running that sheltering project. So, and of course, as you well know, we've got people staying with friends and family. And those are the people that, if they don't register, we don't know that there's a need there.
For those who apply and qualify, Kentucky Emergency Management has travel trailers, or campers, available for those who need housing, and are already looking to add additional sites.
We're going to expand the Shelby Valley site. We did have 18 sites set up there. We're going to expand it so that we can put more folks there, and we've looked at a couple other sites around the county to possibly be able to put more if needed. For people to be able to get help, they have to be able to register. They've got, you know, if it's going to the Disaster Recovery Center at the Belfry Library or the Pikeville Library, there'll be representatives from the Red Cross and FEMA. The biggest thing is they need to register with all three, because each one of them brings something different that the other one might not. The Kentucky Emergency Management piece is crucial for the travel trailers, because that's who they need to register with to be able to possibly get into a travel trailer. There's a phone number that they can call. It's 502-607-6665. The second being the Red Cross. The Red Cross brings other needs, and then of course there's the FEMA piece as well. So with those three agencies, they can intermingle. They're all at each location represented, whether it's at the Disaster Recovery Center or at what they call the EMRIC, the mobile centers that's going to go around the county.
Disasters like the 2025 flood may cause horrific destruction, but they also bring people together.
We are one team with one voice, one mission. We are united, and we are Pike County strong. And that's what we're about today, tomorrow, and in the future. It represents the thin gray line from the state police. You've got the yellow line for the dispatcher. You got the blue line for other law enforcement. You've got the orange line for search and rescue, the red line for the fire departments, and the green line for the military. And it takes each and every one of us to make this flag what it is.
Jill, this last hour we have looked at a lot of powerful images, and we've heard a lot of very emotional and powerful stories, some that we're going to carry with us for a long time.
I think so. It's one of those things where you hear people talk about the 77 flood, the 84, I think it was, flood, and they have these traumatic stories of that time. But I think what is so impactful and powerful about what we see now is that we all know about the resiliency of people in Eastern Kentucky and how we don't wait to help our neighbor, how we don't wait for things to get done because we do it ourselves and have for many, many years. But I think with all of the attention from the national media and these groups that have now been exposed to the beauty and resiliency of Eastern Kentucky, it gives me hope. I think it gives you hope too, to know that, you know, we're going to fix the things that might be wrong, but we're going to come out on the other side better and stronger and more prepared than we've ever been. We're just going to rise above and go beyond and be better.
And one thing that I want to add is the one word that has stuck with me over this entire last hour is the word vision. And we've heard a couple stories about vision. If it wasn't for the vision of Mayor Hambley, and if it wasn't for the vision of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to build Fish Trap, we would not be we wouldn't be sitting here right now. We would be in a completely different setting, talking about completely a different set of circumstances.
If those two things hadn't been here, we wouldn't be sitting in this building because it would be flooded. And that's what I tell everybody, that and the night that it was happening, that Saturday when I got there to watch our first responders and then letting people at the top of the cut through come in, I looked at the cut through as I was going up the hill, and I thought, you know, his vision in the 70s when he saw it and he knew something had to change, that's why it's there, and it will be talked about for years to come.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of resources, like we talked about, the groups and things that are out there. Well, Pikeville Medical Center has put together a team, if you will, that has been scouring sites and Facebook pages from other groups and trying to put one resource together of different resources that are available. And we've got that. The website's going to be on your screen. It's pikevillehospital.org/resources. So we're trying to update that, check back often. It changes often.
I think that's again, speaks to the resiliency of our people and our neighbors and the communities that now know about Eastern Kentucky and know the type of people that we have and who they're helping. I mean, it makes a big difference when you're able to walk into somebody's home and help them on their very worst day and they're still smiling. Absolutely. And they have the great attitude of, this is going to be okay. We are overcomers, and it's going to continue to be that way forever.
Jill, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to leave you this evening with some powerful images of the 2025 Eastern Kentucky flood.